Now, you do have Kaiju number 8 levels of scientific accuracy, but then you got Gary Larson levels of scientific accuracy. Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a look at one of my favorite topics, scientific accuracy in entertainment media. Now, if you've been on this channel anytime at all, you know one of the main reasons that I get so into Kaiju number 8, and one of the main reasons that I find so much to review in it. So some media I can enjoy, but I really can't review. Freerun, for instance. I greatly enjoyed Freerun, binged the anime in a go, but the only video I got out of Freerun was wondering why I could not review Freerun. It was just warm and wholesome, and it felt whole in my brain, like a smooth ball of warm marble. But I couldn't analyze it. There was nothing for me to grip, to tear apart, to dig into. But with Kaiju number 8, there's so much scientific accuracy. Maybe it is because Kaiju number 8 overlaps so much with my own field of ecology, but there was so much to analyze for me there. And one of the things I loved was the scientific accuracy. Now, how Kaiju number 8 maintains its scientific accuracy is Matsumoto asked the question, okay, what if the square cube law didn't apply? What if you could have an animal the size of a multi-story building walking around on the terrestrial Earth? What then? So Matsumoto proposed basically energy shields, force fields, to hold the fluids in place. And Matsumoto just politely ignores that one rule, the square cube law. Everything else Matsumoto pays strict attention to. So when the kaiju, when they change their volume suddenly, there's a massive change in heat, and they have to vent the heat. This is paying attention to like Boyle's law and whatnot. But is that the correct law? I don't know. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, the strict adherence to the realities of science is one way of ensuring strict scientific accuracy. There is another method, however. One of my favorite artists of all time is Gary Larson, who did for many, many years filled the newspapers with humor with his strip, a single-panel comic, The Far Side. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. He was Strange Planet before Strange Planet. Gary Larson took the world as it was, focused in on the absurdity, and accentuated the absurdity. Some of his panels were just completely absurd, like, for instance, the real reasons the dinosaur went extinct. If you can look at the image on the screen, you will see a bunch of dinosaurs hanging out smoking cigarettes. Now, this is something of a joke about all of the anti-smoking ads aimed at kids at the time. And of course, we know that the dinosaurs were really not smoking cigarettes for obvious reasons, but it was amusing. Then you just have absurd situations, satirical takes on science fiction, like the time traveler who runs his time machine, which is shaped like a classic flying saucer, on gasoline and runs out of gasoline. You have an octopus presenter preparing a presentation to a group of, them. And the obvious joke about what does he address the collective of multiple octopus as. These are just little jokes that they're either puns, they're the comical equivalent of puns. They're just little bits of absurdity that are absurd because there is a connection between these two things in people's minds. You have explorers going off into the jungle, but they're about to walk through a piranha-infested forest, and they're, cows. Gary Larson had a thing for cows. They showed up in a lot of his comics. Gary Larson had a taste for the absurd. And part of understanding what is absurd is understanding what is real and altering it just a little bit. In one of his comics, a woman finds her husband in her couch cushions. Of course, we all find absurd things in our couch cushions, and you don't lose an entire person in the couch cushions. But Gary Larson said, what if? What if he could just ignore everything? So what does this have to do with scientific accuracy? Well, I said there are two levels of scientific accuracy. One is what you do, what Matsumoto does. You go and you research the science, and you try to make your story adhere to science as closely as possible. The other one is what Gary Larson pursued. You just be so engaging and humorous that the science warps to fit your reality. That was what happened in the case of the Thagomizer. Gary Larson loved drawing cavemen and dinosaurs together. Gary Larson drew this famous one of a caveman scientist presenting his findings to a group of cavemen that they had named the spikes on the end of a specific dinosaur's tail the Thagomizer in honor of the lake Thag. The presumption being that this guy got too close to the dinosaur, got killed by that spike on the tail, which is speculated to be used for defensive purposes, or was at the time. And this, of course, is absolutely absurd on so many different levels, and it became a favorite comic strip among paleontologists. And according to the legend, a bunch of paleontologists were at a conference and they realized that they did not actually have a name for these spikes at the base of this dinosaur's tail. And so they said, you know what? Let's call it the Thagomizer. So a scientifically accurate panel that is in fact the Thagomizer. And Larson did a comic about Jane Goodall, and this actually got him introduced to Jane Goodall. It went down something like this. He did a comic about great apes that referenced Jane Goodall. Jane Goodall's people called him up in a rage, said, take that down, we never want to see that again. And Larson subtly chastised, took this to heart until National Geographic called him and goes, this is a hysterical comic, can we please use it in one of our National Geographic magazines? And Larson goes, I'm sorry, but Goodall said never do that again. And the National Geographic people said, I'm sorry, Goodall? Jane Goodall? No, that doesn't sound like her. Give us a bit. They called up Jane Goodall. She said she found it entirely funny, and it had been like an intern or something who had told Gary Larson to knock it off. And so she invited him out to meet the chimps. So you have two perspectives on science as an artist. You can use it as an amusing backdrop, use the assumptions of science to make people laugh at the pure absurdity of this world you create. Or you can make people cry like Matsumoto does by integrating the science so accurately that it becomes an accurate reflection of the world. So what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Have you ever enjoyed Gary Larson's work? Have you ever? I didn't know that was called the Thagomizer. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.
Drake McCarty's leg was shattered, deep in the wilderness. As the flash flood closed over him, something alien pulled him from the waters. A military base that shouldn't exist. An ancient warrior with secrets of his own. Drake returns to his family with a whole leg and the burden of a secret he doesn't understand. In the forest around them, someone is watching, and something followed him home. Flying Sparks. 90,000 words of science fantasy adventure. The first novel in the Dying Embers universe is now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and from the author as a signed copy. Get your copy now and step into a world where dragons walk the forest, aliens lurk on the mountain, and things go boomp in the night.
Escape into another world with the writings of author Betty Adams. Two worlds, one of utter absurdity, one of dramatic tension, both alike in aliens absolutely astounded by human behavior. Humans are weird, short, absurd science fiction stories. Flying sparks, dragons, aliens, and things that go boomp in the night.
Books available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo by Rakuten, Google Play Books, and at authorBettyAdams.com for a signed copy.